Finance, all bits and bytes, is at heart a tech problem, the Valley believes, and will be solved by tech companies, not the lumbering banking gerontocrats.
A gerontocrat is a very old statesman of some type, or somebody that's involved in government bureaucracy. So somebody that's, let's say they're 80 years old and they're still working for government, that person would be a gerontocrat. Geron basically refers to old people. So geriatrics is the field of health for old people. There can also be a gerontocracy, which would refer to a system which elevates old people or keeps old people in power. And a lot of people would argue that the American political system has turned into a gerontocracy because there seems to be a lot of room for old people to maintain their power, but it's very difficult for younger people to gain power. So the average age of people in Congress is now like 70 years old. And technically, these people should all be retired. They shouldn't still be in government. They should have gotten replaced by younger people a long time ago. But that's not how it works, because they happen to like their positions of power. They're able to maintain their positions of power. And it's very difficult for young people to knock them out, a lot of times because these people have a lot of influence. So they're able to benefit their constituents, where if they got a younger person, that person would have to start from scratch. A lot of people say that Harry Reid is a gerontocrat. He's like 80 years old, but he says that he's in his prime, and he's doing good for the world. So who's to say? Traditional forms of government typically involved some type of gerontocracy, because old people, not only did they get power, but they also gained wisdom too.
Now the penny is dropping that non-bank rivals can just attack more profitable areas and skim the cream, says Hugh Van Steenis at Morgan Stanley.
Penny drops refers to a sound of a coin, a penny, or some coin going into a machine, which shows that the machine is actually functioning. So if you want to buy a soda and you put quarters into the soda machine, there's a sound of the quarter getting stuck, which is kind of this tinny sound, and then there's the sound of the coin actually going into the machine, and then you get a sense that you've actually accomplished something. So there's a slight delay between the time that you put the quarter in and the time that the sound comes out. So this concept gets applied to an event where there's a time delay between the initiating factor and the let's call it the consequences, or the acknowledgement of what's going on. This phenomena is also called when the other shoe drops. The idea being that if you hear one shoe dropping, then it's very likely you're going to hear a second shoe dropping as well. So this is also related to the idea of actions bringing consequences. Okay, so when somebody says when the penny drops, what they're referring to is the secondary event, where you see what happens. So if somebody does something bad, you wait for the consequences, and then when that consequence happens, then you say when the penny drops. So the idea of when the penny drops, that refers to a belated realization of something after a period of confusion or ignorance. So if, let's say, there's a boss, and the boss is doing, a whole bunch of unethical things, and nobody in the office is really doing anything about it, but they suspect that he's going to get found out about it at some point, when they're talking amongst themselves, they'll say, well, what do you think is going to happen? And one person might say, when the penny drops. Which means that yes, there will be consequences, but not right away. I was trying to teach my nephew how to read time, and we spent quite a bit of time going over it over a period of time. But then finally, one day, the penny dropped, and he said, oh, it's 2 o'clock, it's 2:15. There was a class, and the new teacher told the students that there would be no interruptions in class. And the students wanted to test the new teacher, and he kicked one student out for interrupting in class. Then he kicked another student out for interrupting in class. And finally, after the third student, the penny dropped, and the students realized that if they interrupted, they would get kicked out of class. ESL-fullsteamahead.com